Hi everyone, Joshua Kirk here with you once again. Now it's time for episode 100 and, this is episode 123, I think it is, of Album of the Day. Yeah, that's what it is. Episode 123 of Album of the Day. In which, today I'm going to be reviewing the brand new album from a very prolific San Francisco-based garage rock outfit that had been around since like the late 90s, pretty much. You know, they've changed, monikers a little bit here and there, but this has been pretty much their name since like the mid to late 2000s, pretty much. Late 2000s, pretty much. The band that I'm talking about is the legendary garage rock outfit, garage rock, noise rock, indie rock band known as the OCs. They've, had various, sort of versions of their name. They were once called like TOS one time, and then one time there was like the OCs with just one E in the. Lately the name of their band has been like V with like two E's in there. So I'm here. They've been pretty prolific, releasing one, album after another, a lot like some of the other bands in that same sort of genre, like Ty Segall or King Gizzard and the Lizard Wizard, something like that. Like sort of the lo-fi garage rock craze of like the late 2000s and the early 2010s. Excuse me. So I'm here to review the new album from the OCs, released I believe on August 12th or something like that. The album's called A Weird Exits. As you can see, I have the vinyl of this album here. Sorry about the light, but that's okay. Really, really cool album cover over here. I bought this at one of my favorite record stores to go to that's in Baltimore called the Soundgarden. I'll show you the packaging here. Released on John Dwyer, the band's frontman, his own label, Castle Face Records, which he has, released several the OC's albums. Since then, and the Ty Segall's first album was actually released on Castle Face as well. It says on here, in loving memory of Aaron Aids. Not sure who that is, but apparently it's probably a family member of one of the members of this band. There's 4 people in the band, John Dwyer, of course, as well as, Tim Hellman on bass, and Ryan Mutino and Dan Recon, 2 drummers in this group. There's collage there of them performing live or something like that. There's 2 vinyls in here. Here's side A, and then here's side B. And then here's the other vinyl here. I'll show you that insert in a little bit. There's the C side there. And there's some see-through artwork here. I'll have to use the light to make you see this. Yeah, some strange artwork on the back of the other vinyl. And here are the lyrics here and the liner notes and stuff like that. There's a photo of the band right there. Excuse me. Alright, it's in there now. So yeah, that's the packaging for my vinyl copy of the new OC's album, A Weird Exits. Now, this record definitely sees the band, pretty much cranking out what is, pretty much what a lot of people are saying is like one of their best records in years, pretty much. While I'm not too familiar with some of their back catalog, I can see why some people are saying that, because I did listen to like little bits of some of their older stuff, and I do find I'm a little indifferent to some of that material, because it seemed to be a little kind of quantity over quality for me, meaning it was, a little too lo-fi for me, pretty much, so I think the band's definitely, made significant improvements in terms of like production and stuff like that. Starting with their last album, Mutilator, Defeated at Last, and this record even more, I think. The band's definitely, sort of challenging themselves to do better now in terms of the production, production pretty much, so it doesn't just feel like just this, so it doesn't just feel like just this, really long, just unending sort of, searing punishment or anything like that. Like I would say, it's been a pretty great year for garage rock. So many albums in that genre this year that have really caught the balance of between lo-fi and well-produced. New Ty Segall record, which I reviewed, as well as the new King Gizzard album, which is really spectacular. Just watch my incredibly glowing review for that album. It's going to be pretty high on my list as one of the best albums of the year for me, I think. Same thing here with this record over here. So, I'm just going to go into a little more descriptive detail about this album, shall we? Okay. The opening track on this album, Dead Man's Gun, starts out things with a pretty positive note, with these really killer riffs and, a really nice bass line and drum groove on the song as well as kind of these tongue-in-cheek falsetto vocals on there, but then they also range from like kind of hilariously gruff yelped vocals as well. Like, I would say the song, it does, I think it's a pretty good song. It does start out the album pretty well, but my one complaint about the track is that it kind of ends abruptly, leaving it feel maybe a little half-finished for me. So, not really the best intro track, I think, I would say the songwriting on this album isn't necessarily amazing, but, that's okay, because apparently the band's biggest strong suit is obviously jams, rather than songs, pretty much, So I think this album really shows that in a really good way. The following track on this album, Ticklish Warrior, has an absolutely just brutal riff that's just really distorted. It's like, I mean, tell me this riff isn't inspired by some, like metal record or something like that. Because I think the band's even taken inspiration from that on this track, and that song just seriously kicks ass with its just searing riffs on that track, as well as the drums, which are just kind of all over the place with the cymbals crashing and stuff like that. It's really just it's the one song that really gets the hellfire going on this record for sure. And it features just this kind of, grouchy sort of, yelped vocals pretty much, which definitely seems like, they're taking inspiration from, which, they're pretty much, I definitely think they're taking inspiration from maybe Black Sabbath or something like that on this track, because it is so kind of, it's so aggressive that, it may as well be an indie metal song or something like that. The very next song on here is one of the few interlude instrumental tracks on the album, the track Jammed Entrance, which features these sputtering little guitar tones, some really nice rhythmic, groovy bass and drums on there, as well as these weird kind of freaky chirping keyboards that are like that kind of actually sound more like they're playing Morse code than they are like music. And the keys on this track are absolutely killer, and definitely shows the band sort of mixing things up, and definitely definitely throwing us for a little curveball here. And it features this really nice sort of synth bridge as well. It's definitely it's definitely a great instrumental track, and I like how it shows that, it's another example of the band sort of showing that, their lyrics may not necessarily be their strong suit, but like instrumental ability is pretty much, it's definitely the one song that shows they didn't need vocals to make it engaging and like go on for like 5 minutes pretty much. The very next song, Plastic Plant, is probably my favorite track on this album. Really great riffs on that track, as well as these, sort of nutty, cheeky, like tongue-in-cheek falsetto vocals that sound as if like, if you took like John Lennon's voice and Ty Segall's voice and threw them both in a blender, this is probably what it would sound like, in my opinion. And also like the bass and drums like syncopate really nicely with the guitars, and the guitars on this track just sound absolutely incredible. Like, I would say my favorite thing about this track is like just sort of the playful, noisy interaction with the guitars, the bass, and the drums, and like the note balance and stuff like that is incredible. It's definitely totally just a face-melting track right here. And I think I even heard flute on the background of this song, so awesome. John Dwyer threw in a little Easter egg for the listener. The very next song, Gelatinous Cube, is another song that totally kicks ass. I mean, when I played the song on vinyl, I could not help just bouncing around the room like this. Just air guitaring to it, because it is just so, awesome. I can tell that that's pretty, great song live, because there's so much just frantic, just energy going on with that track, with the amazing riffs on the song, the really just, off the wall sort of drumming, as well as these just, as well as just hilariously gruff shouts on here, like, that's my sign! That definitely, sounds pretty nice on there. I mean, what I like about this album is it's just so full of energy. It's just a very sweaty record, it definitely does, it definitely does feel like, this is the kind of album that, it could totally, if the record player could tolerate heat, this is the kind of album that could tolerate heat so much that it would probably I bet you would probably melt the record player, because it is just a hot, searing sort of record, and also I'm sweating balls while listening to it, that's for sure. Listening to it for sure. But then, the band definitely does help take a break from the madness a little bit on this track, with some kind of laid-back, scatty vocal, segments in there too. Following that is the other instrumental track on this album, Unwrap the Fiend Part 2, and this is another track on here that I really liked as well. I love just, the kind of, this song is almost kind of jazzy almost, with it's really nice, sort of, smooth, almost sexy kind of guitars, bass, and drum groove on there. But then eventually there are some moments in there where the guitars get a little distorted, just to let people know it's still, garage rock here. here. And plus, I do really like how this song is almost kind of euphoric with its, really nice guitar interplay. And, I like the kind of harmonized guitars on the song as well. And also it features this, kind of, weird, but still very euphoric sort of, keyboard solo in the middle, as well as this really nice sort of, ethereal kind of watery wall of mellotron choir at the end. Choir at the end of the song too. So bulk of this record is pretty much garage rock, psych rock, noise rock, madness. But the band does definitely take a little rest from that madness really beautifully on the song Crawl Out Into the Fallout. The longest song on the record, 8 minutes long, but still, definitely this track does enough to make it still engaging. It's a more low-key, the quietest song on the album, the closest that I think it comes to a ballad on here, which features these really beautiful, almost kind of, these really beautiful, colorful string arrangements, as well as this this groaning, pitched down, I think slightly pitched down mellotron or something like that, as well as kind of this jazzy little drum thing going on, and all these weird, kind of, off-kilter, electronic noises going in and out on, on, the left ear, on the left ear and the right ear, pretty much, as well as these kind of hushed, almost whispered, harmonized vocals on there, but the sort of, I think sort of, the deep and the high dynamics on here on the vocals sound really nice on here. This is a track that really grew on me with repeated listens. I mean, the first time I heard this song, I didn't really care for it too much. I thought it was too long and that it was kind of boring, but the song has really grown on me with repeated listens. It doesn't really progress beyond just a few notes, but it still definitely stays engaging, and and I'm almost kind of blown away by it now with just how beautiful it sounds. It kind of feels like being kind of, lifted up pretty much. So you're pretty much, you feel like you're kind of beaten up for some parts of the album, but then this is the one song that sort of allows you to just kind of relax and, remind yourself that, it's gonna be okay, and, I'm not gonna get hurt. This song is pretty heavenly, I will admit. But the album does close off with a major snag with the closing track on here, Daxis. I mean, I don't like the very redundant instrumental on this track with the kind of blatant guitar, keyboard, bass, and drums on here. The guitar riff on this song sounds like something pulled straight out of Dr. Dog's playbook, but just not in a way that's inviting or that's, or that's really interesting, in a way that's kind of a little middle of the road. Still, I thought the male-female vocals on the track were okay, and I thought the lyrics were kind of hilarious too, considering, and it kind of makes up for it, considering songwriting isn't necessarily a big thing about this record necessarily, even though it does seem pretty off-putting with the just, very just kind of, lazy instrumental on here. And the organ line, I heard it was taken off of it was taken off cover version of a Jimi Hendrix piece, but still the inspiration just simply feels like rehashing. But the band does close out the song with a really strange guitar solo that only gets more and more distorted as it goes on, and they kind of read my mind here, hey, let's destroy this kind of redundant instrumental, let's throw in a really just, off-kilter solo or something like that. And I think it does kind of end the song in kind of a funny way with all the strange noises it's making, to the point where it sounds like a strange, sound collage or something like that. Watch or something like that. And definitely one of the most distorted riffs that I've heard all year. So I guess it kind of saves the song from its redundancy a little bit for me. Still, outside of that one little blemish there, this is a great record. I mean, the OCs really came through with definitely one of the best garage rock albums of the year. And, it definitely sees them pretty much, getting better at what they're doing, once again, just like, their last album did for some people. So, yeah, I'm going to go with a strong 8 out of 10 for this new DOC's album over here. If you're looking for another great garage rock record that's got a lot of, instrumental character to it, and it's just really kind of fast and energetic and just really ballsy, well then definitely check out this record for sure. Sure, it's a record that, is definitely just so wonderfully weird in my opinion. It's definitely an album that's just so wonderfully weird in my opinion, because it's really kind of off kilter. It's very kind of acid fueled pretty much, but still, and still there's like some great energy to it. So yeah, it's just a lot of fun to listen to, I will admit. So yeah, that's my review of the new VOC's album, Weird Exits. Definitely check out this album. See you for episode 124.